Aloha mai kako again. Mahalo for joining our Senior Capstone Expo Evaluator orientation today. We really thank you for joining us in participating in the celebration of celebrating our seniors' work and their journeys through their time here at Kamehameha School's Hawaii campus. We really appreciate your feedback um, on their projects, as this is really impactful for their personal growth and development. So today we'll be talking about, what is Capstone, what is Senior Expo, some upcoming reminders and information so that you folks can have a successful experience with us next week. So what is Senior Capstone? Senior Capstone, it used to be called Senior Legacy. Recently, we rebranded to Senior Capstone to really encapsulate the expectations of this culminating journey where students are kind of combining all the EK, the knowledge, experiences, the coursework that they've gained with us as Haumana here at Kamehameha Schools into a personally relevant and community impact project grounded in Hawaiian values. So each of our seniors, they were charged with doing their own research, working with their seminar kumu starting in August to plan out what a potential project might be, implementing and actionating on that project, and really giving them an opportunity to develop and lead their own agentic change in our impact. We truly believe that our seniors and our students are the next generation of OEV leaders. So through Senior Capstone, we hope that they are developing their own leadership skills to become good and industrious Haumana in our community. So Senior Expo is part of the final showcases for our seniors. So this week they'll be engaging in what we call the quarter two final defense, where students are they have a formal classroom presentation to their peers and their seminar kumu, demonstrating the mastery of their Hamana competency model, which we'll talk about in a second, and their specific project components. Senior Expo, which will be next week, when you all will join us, is really a public celebration of their impact. This is oftentimes their first time presenting to community members on their work. And so they'll be a little nervous, but through this process, we also hope to gain actionable feedback because for some of these students, they selected these projects based on what their post-high plans or careers might be. So a lot of our students picked topics or develop projects that are really close to home, um, where they might use as a springboard for future work in their educational studies. So this year, or I guess I should say last academic school year, Kamehameha Schools Hawaii announced the Portrait of a Graduate. This was a culminating result of a multi-year effort to collect feedback and ike and mana'o from Haumana, from Ohana members, from Kumu, administrators, and community stakeholders. And we developed these four signature traits, which we believe all of our students should aspire to be. And these four traits are warriors of just future, cultivator of a thriving legacy, master of critical literacies, and leader of Lahui empowerment for global impact. These Portia graduate signature traits have been used on campus here to develop specific Hamana competencies as we shift into this competency-based learning framework here on campus. So our Hamana have been charged to implement and embody these traits through different aspects of their project. So with Warriors of Just Future, students might be picking an issue or a topic in the community where they're developing some sort of solution to address that through their work. Cultivator of a Thriving Legacy, students might be looking at their own mo'okuauhau or their own connection to the issue, connection to mentorships in their mentors in the community, looking at the Hawaiian values that ground them, that ground their ohana, that ground their work, but also looking ahead, right? So, like, what is their legacy to the next generation of students, their legacy, and how do they become good kupuna? Right. Master critical literacies students have to complete their own research and scholarship to ensure that their projects are really grounded in good research. And we're not just kind of making things up of like, oh, I think this might address the problem, right? Is that their projects are are improved and iterated through conversations with mentors, their senior seminar kumu with peers, to really identify root causes and devise actionable steps in their projects to lead towards ultimately impact. So, through this project, we're really giving each Homana the opportunity to demonstrate that they can be a leader in that space. Students are required to select a subject area specific senior seminar in which to implement their programs or projects. So business, health, engineering, science, and natural resources. We have 8 different categories. So we hope that through these projects, these students are really making impactful results and sharing their work. So every capstone project is guided through these 4 main traits. So throughout the project, you might see students use these terms. So we thought it would be important in this orientation session to give you folks kind of a preview of what our students have been working on, in case they do mention some of these traits. As you evaluate these presentations, you'll see these traits and some of these elements woven throughout. Their mo'olelo that they share, the project design, some of the criteria that we required the students to use in order to assess the outcomes of their projects. So what happens at Senior Expo? Senior Expo, typically, it's going to be a large event held in our gymnasium at the high school, and it will be Monday, December 8th. I'll go a little bit more in the timeline in the next couple slides, but really the goal is, again, it's a celebration. We're coming together to really celebrate the seniors' work. And for some of them, it's been a year long. We started this process with them as juniors. For a couple of them, this has been truly a capstone experience where they're putting together earlier projects that they started as early as ninth grade, and really it's coming to fruition now. But ultimately, it's to showcase their projects to community evaluators to ultimately get feedback, authentic, actionable, clear feedback to really validate their work and encourage them to continue with their growth academically, and with their careers. So, a small kind of snapshot of our map on campus. For those who haven't been to campus yet, our senior expo will be held in Kauai, our high school gymnasium. So, when you enter through the guard shack, which is number 4 here, the first intersection, if you turn right, will take you to middle school. You'll continue straight if at the second intersection, and then you'll hang a left. Our elementary school, Kulaha'aha'a, is on the right. And you continue down the path, you'll pass the football stadium, Paia, on the left. And then you'll continue down the curve and you'll find we're installing the senior capstone flags now. Really hard to miss. They're like 6 feet tall. And evaluators are welcome to park in the main Kauai parking lot here for our for our evaluators, excuse me. And then check-in will be in our aerobics room, which is next to the locker rooms. We'll have signage and Haumana to guide our evaluators from the parking lot over to the aerobics room. And then Senior Expo for most of our evaluators will be held in the gym in Building 16 here. And then a select others who are doing the performing arts evaluations will be in Kamaka Building 28. We'll have other young student leaders walking over the evaluators there over to Kamaka. All right, so the event schedule ultimately will start at 4:30. We asked all of our evaluators to try and check in around that time. We recognize traffic coming out this way might be a little busy, so if you folks arrive a little earlier, we will be set up to greet you as early as 4. But if you can check in at least by 4:30 at the aerobics room, we'll have some light poo-poos and snacks for you folks. But you can also pick up your evaluation materials, and a little makana bag for volunteering your time with us next week. At 4:45, we'll have a really short welcome and orientation led by myself. Just final instructions and reminders about the evaluation rounds, which will start promptly at 5 o'clock. Where we'll transition to the gym. There will be 4 evaluation rounds lasting 15 minutes each with a little break or buffer in between. You'll observe anywhere between 3 to 4 students during this time. And then lastly, at 6:15, we'll start our kind of mini celebration. We'll hand out pins and certificates. Evaluators are welcome to check out the other projects But if you are done with your evaluations, you are welcome to leave at that point. So basically, we'll check in at 4:30, and then evaluation goes from 5 to 6:15. We'll be hanging out in the gym probably until 7 until breakdown. But again, you're welcome to leave at 6:15 when you're finished. So, your role as an evaluator primarily is just to observe and provide feedback on our student presentation. So, you'll be spending around 50 minutes with each student, and we ask that you use our Senior Expo evaluation rubric. So, this rubric is grounded in our Portrait Graduate Signature Traits, but also aligned with the different phases or areas of project building and assessment, which I'll talk about in a second. This year, we're using a straightforward 1 to 4 scale where you can score the students using the criteria. And then lastly, and I think this is the most impactful for our students, is to provide meaningful feedback. And that's why we structure Expo in the way that it is, and we invite community stakeholders and subject area experts as such as yourselves to come back to campus to provide actionable feedback to our alumni so that they can improve their projects. For some students, they'll be continuing this on after Expo, and often for others, this is really a springboard into what a future career might be for them as well. So, our what to expect at Expo. One of the most popular questions I get is what is dress code? Business casual or aloha attire. Please dress comfortably. For those who are working in maybe the health field, if you want to come in your scrubs, you want to come straight from work, that's totally fine as well. The atmosphere, we try to be formal, but it is, supportive and warm. The students certainly will be a little nervous because this is a graduation requirement for them. So we ask that we try to keep the environment lively and happy and warm. And then we will have one of our student leaders announcing over the PA system, rotations, reminders to switch to the next students. This year, we're trying something a little different. It's 2025. We've worked with our team to try and re-envision of what like a senior expo presentation might be for those who are returning evaluators. You might remember we've kind of stuck with the trifold boards over the years. This year, it's going to look a little different. So we still have some subjects areas where we need to do poster boards like science. Where they're getting ready for district level science fair competitions. But a lot of our students we're going digital. So they'll might present a digital slide presentations. For those students with computers, we do have high boys set up. So hopefully it's a little easier to see their laptops and their presentations. Other students might have video documentaries. Our performing arts students will be performing live, some of them. Our construction engineering students will be presenting physical prototypes. And others might have some interactive elements. So it might look a little different than previous years, but that's basically what to expect. So our evaluation rubric, we revised it this year. Again, we're using a simple 1 through 4 rating scale. One really means does not meet. There's significant gaps in that section. Hopefully, we won't have many that earn a 1. But 2 means meets with reservations. It means there are core elements there. We're checking off some of the boxes, but it's really lacking depth or clarity, or connection or explanation. So really kind of surface level criteria for that element. 3 means meets expectations. So in this competency based framework that we're trying to implement here on campus, 3 typically means mastery. Mastery is really the goal for our alumna. So 3 means meets. It means it's a solid work. It demonstrates everything. It checks off all the boxes. But 4 for us is really refining or exemplary. It's really outstanding work. It's a projects that really blow you away, or at least some of those elements that it shows and demonstrates exceptional depth, insight, and true impact from their projects. So that's the rating scale, and you'll be assessing 8 different capstone elements. So introduction, purpose, or abstract, and then problem statement or driving question. This is really the foundational pieces for the students' project. So last year we worked with them as juniors to try and narrow down and develop like a problem statement or a true driving question. Like what is the underlying problem or issue or topic that you're trying to address through your project. How is that personally relevant to you, and what is the purpose of that? So that's what the first two elements are really looking at. As I mentioned earlier, master critical literacy, all of these projects are grounded in research and various sources. So we want to make sure that these projects are sound and informed by best practices. For our project plan and methodology, each student will need to demonstrate, what their plan was, their timeline for their work, and then five, ultimately, what is the outcome? How did you implement it? What is the product that they created through their capstone project? Six focuses really on the impact and community benefit. So students were charged to develop their own criteria of assessing the success of their projects. So how do they demonstrate that their project was successful and impactful to the Lahui, right? How did it address the issue or the driving question that they set out to solve? Seven focuses on their own reflection and learning through the process. So this year we tried to shift the focus from product to process and allowing the students to understand that projects such as these in life many times it's iterative, right? We're always refining. We're talking stories with their kumu, other peers, mentors. We're using that paka or feedback to iterate and improve the project. And it's a cycle of what we call the Uivi Edge innovation process, where students are learning and reflecting to improve their work and themselves. So seven really is an opportunity for the student to look at the process as a whole and really reflect on their personal growth from the beginning to where they are now. And then lastly, presentation communication. We hope that each of our students are able to clearly articulate and share some of the work that they've done in their project. So, and then lastly, feel free to provide, live feedback verbally, but we also have an opportunity for you to write or leave comments or feedback or suggestions for the Homana. So, one thing that's also new this year is we're going digital. So we're able to set up a kind of a temp network for our guest evaluators. So you have two options to provide feedback for our Haumana. The first option will be an online Google form. We'll share this link with you folks on the day of Senior Expo. Basically, all you'll need to do is list your name, select the subject area seminar, then on the next page, select the student, and then you'll see the 8 different capstone elements, and then you can just click and toggle a box for 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each of those elements. And then you can provide feedback on the very end. And then we'll ask you a question like, would it be okay for the students to follow up to talk stories about your element as well, or your feedback? One thing that the students were required to do this year was to recruit a community mentor. That's a non-KSH person working in the field, working in the community in that subject area. For some of our students, it was probably the most terrifying thing having to cold call someone. But I think through it all, it's focused on developing their profession, their community network. So we ask that our students and if you're open to it as well, use this opportunity to allow our students to continue to build their network through their conversation with you next week. But if you don't feel comfortable with the form or would rather stick with paper, totally okay. We'll also provide paper copies of our evaluation rubric. I'll share this PDF with you folks as well. The 4 main columns going across and the 8 different elements in the bottom. No worries about the math. We can calculate that at the end. But those will be our 2 rubrics for that we'll be using next week. So the most impactful, I think, process or outcome from Expo really is the constructive feedback. For some of our students, this has been really vulnerable work, issues that are really close to home. For some, like as I mentioned, have been working on for a few years. But by no means, we claim that our students are subject area experts. So we ask that our evaluators provide encouraging feedback, especially for those who are working in the field. Feel free to share, things that are working, not working, recommendations that you would provide for students should they decide to continue this work. And although, I've been guilty of this comment, sharing like good job is not very actionable for our students. So we ask that any feedback or constructive feedback that you might have be specific about what worked well or what you would recommend and should they improve. Um, One key thing that is going to be a result of this is at the end of the semester after Expo, students will be submitting what we call a portrait graduate reflection. Again, really reflecting on the process and how far that they've come. As part of that, they'll need to integrate some of the feedback that they've been getting from their peers, their seminar kumu, and from Senior Expo. So providing specific and actionable feedback allows our students to better reflect on the process and kind of plan forward. And as I mentioned, our students have done a little bit of research, but they're no subject area experts. So if we can avoid using kind of specific jargon and allow some of the comments to be clear and concise. I know evaluators in the past have been super helpful and excellent, but we felt that sharing this slide and some kind reminders on how to interact with our students would be helpful as we're going into Senior Expo. All right, and one thing that is new that is required is last year, State of Hawaii signed into law the Harm to Student Registry, and in short, this registry is a collection of individuals that might have harmed students that are reported by schools. So, per KS policy and by law, anyone who is volunteering or has interactions with students need to be checked against this registry. So, Commitment Schools Hawaii has created a Harm to Student Registry form, which is super short. It is confidential and secure. We will not release any of your information, and the information is protected and will be solely used for safety verification. The purposes of this is just to prevent any individuals with a documented history of harm to students with working with our youth. So this is our way of kind of protecting our haumana and protecting our kula as well. So I will drop the link in the chat for you all. It is a very short form, as I mentioned. The first question is a consent question. If you consent to screening, your name, organization, email, phone number, date of birth, and date of visit to campus, which will be December 8th. So, point of clarification, this is only for any non-KSH employees or non-KSH volunteers that have not already been vetted and approved through CAPI, Comstock. This is for any new volunteers or people who have not been vetted through the school. And again, this is secure, confidential, and we won't be sharing your information. Yeah, and that's basically it for today. Just want to mahalo you all for your time this afternoon. If you could submit the Harm to Student Registry form soon so that we can check you against the database so that we're ready for you to join us next week, Monday. Please check your email after the completion of my 6 p.m. meeting tomorrow evening. I'll be sending up a follow-up email with a recording of the session, the rubric, the event map, and logistics. And feel free to review those materials, but each of you will be provided a copy and a little folder. I don't have it with me, but cute little senior capstone folders that we've printed for the event. But come ready to celebrate. That's ultimately what we're here for. And again, mahalo for your time today.